up, everybody? Celtics Talk Podcast back at you because Brad Stevens and Celtics owner Bill Chisholm met with the media today to discuss the Jaylen Brown trade, trying to, for 45 minutes, they attempted to explain, or as Brad Stevens said, not defend, but just give you some insight. And so to help me break it all down, to help me parse what was truly learned from this press conference, I had to get someone who's well-versed in media speak, because you've dealt with it through the years with your own Bill, and I guess you didn't have a Brad. Did they have a Brad?
No, I don't think they ever had a Brad. Well, they had a Brad Seeley, special teams
that's true.
coach.
Did he do many special teams talks up there?
No, Bill wasn't letting his assistants.
A legend in his own right. All right, Tommy Curran, you're passionate about this stuff. I want to start just like surface level, or maybe 10,000-foot view level. Like, did you come away feeling better, worse, indifferent? Like, how did you when you listened to this press conference?
And first, thank you for having me.
Oh my God,
it's really.
So first off, so normally this is Tom's chair, and I just invaded for Celtics talk. So I felt weird. I came in, I staked my claim. I was like, this is my podcast. I hope you're okay over there.
No, this is the Phil chair, and I like it over here because you can lead and I can react, and everybody who's watching and or listening, I'm deferential to Chris. I'm deferential to you guys.
You should not be deferential.
I'm deferential to you guys because, look, I follow it and have for a long, long time.
But you're taking it from a fan perspective, which I think is so important for today. Because...
And for me, I think, but being as a media member, I still continue to try and envision what they're envisioning.
Sure.
So when I see Brad Stevens or an organization that is championship-driven, ushered out of the playoffs twice in a row in really tragic circumstances, basketball-wise, where you collapse, I wasn't surprised that they would start to interrogate, how do we do this? And last week when the trade was made, I always thought it was ironic, and I said that many times. I've been a Jaylen Brown cynic for years. And this past year, I said they're going to win 38 games. He played better than I ever thought he would. Mm-hmm. I thought he would be one of the worst ones in the league. He was certainly top 10 and deserving of every MVP vote that he got. But when I looked at this team and thought, how do they get better? They were going to perpetually tread water because of the finances. So when the trade was made, I understood that they weren't trading for Paul George and picks. The number one banner headline on the marquee is flexibility, which, as you guys will hear, optionality is the word that was used.
Well, it's a great way to start it off, and let's get right into it. Here was the favorite buzzword from today.
And you have to have the optionality plus the optionality moving forward, picks and optionality, and give us optionality moving forward. You have to be thinking about you first and the optionality it creates for you, still being good with more optionality. And we wanted to add more optionality. I think when you use the term optionality, you're talking about just length of contract. So that's where the increased optionality comes from.
You know, Brad went with a plan to describe what it was, and if we're going to get a jersey that says optionality, and either some people were dubbing it up online with a 7, you know, as a jersey number. Some I said just go 26 or 27 or whatever you want to do it. But I'm with you, right? Like when you heard this trade happen, yes, it's shocking when you see Jaylen Brown has been traded for Paul George, but as it started to digest, and as I started to look at the picks, once we had a better understanding of what the picks were, I was like, okay, I can see the vision. It's certainly not the robust trade return that even a Desmond Bain got a few years ago, for what Mikal Bridges got, for what Giannis got, for what Kawhi Leonard got. And I get why people were frustrated by that. But the Celtics essentially got to the point where, hey, like, look, they just need some flexibility to put this thing back together. And I think that Brad came in trying to stress that, like, hey, I'm not here to defend the trade. I'm not here to tell you what's next. But I can tell you, now we have options. And before, I'm not sure you had a lot of options.
No, you had one of the worst things that could have happened was Jaylen Brown being named second team All-NBA, because that made him eligible for the Supermax as opposed to the regular max contract. And once that happened, the Celtics would have been jilting him and insulting him and disrespecting him had they not given him that. Right. So they obviously, I mean, we were setting off streamers here when he was named second team All-NBA. I'm like, that's not a good move for the Celtics as a team.
And this is what's maddening, is it should be a good thing when you draft a player and they become All-NBA, but instead it has turned into the worst possible outcome.
Yeah, you want him to just be on the cusp of All-NBA.
Right. If you have 64 games but play to an All-NBA level is better than actually being an All-NBA.
Yeah. So that's a good way of not twisting, but a different way of looking at it, because once that happened, that meant that Tatum was obviously going to get that, and your hands were tied. And I actually went back and read to make sure it was second team NBA or third team NBA. It was second team, because I had been saying third team like a nitwit. But I looked at a story when he got his contract, and that story from 2023 that you wrote talked about the fact that, okay, they will be able to trade out of this. And that, I think, is an important tumbler that would have fallen into place.
Score one for me.
Had the Celtics not made this move, and they didn't pick up the final 2 years of his contract.
Oh, right.
If the Celtics didn't pick up the option that is available to Brown, he would have been kicking rocks, most likely. And if he wasn't, we in the media and the fans at large, being as educated and sensitive to the business decisions as we are, and the amount of time that we have to fill, would have been circling back. Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? And they couldn't just say, because we don't want him until he's 33. We kind of want to wriggle out of this and try and get a 5. We kind of want to try to get out of this and improve with some size and defensive ability our backcourt. And we can't do that right now with Jaylen Brown.
I think what got lost is part of the reason the Celtics, when they saw this new CBA coming and they got ahead of it. And so Brad goes out and trades for Kristaps and Drew, and they build this, what amounted to a super team that they knew they were never going to be able to really kind of cobble together again, at least not while Jayson and Jaylen were on the team. And they won, and we keep saying it, right? They're kind of paying the price ever since then. And it got to the point where now look, if you want to roll this back to last year and you said, hey, maybe they should have moved a little bit quicker, Tatum sideline, maybe you try to cash out on Jaylen Brown a little bit earlier, you can absolutely second guess that part of it. But it felt like this was a real junction point. And just as you said, now that he's kind of nearing this extension, and if you're not sure you want to pay him 2 years, $142 million, then you had to get out of the Jaylen Brown business. And that's no reflection on the player. It's just a reflection on the finances, which is what Brad pointed out today.
When I looked at our team and I looked at where the league was heading, looked at the way that we've finished the last couple years, and also looked at the unbelievable way we've played in the regular season in the last couple years, the path looked a little bit more challenging to me. I might be wrong. I'm not going to stand up here and be defensive about that. But the path looked a little bit more challenging with 70% of our cap. And such a high percent of our usage tied into 2 players. And the reality in this era and in this day and age of the NBA, and you could see it obviously with the last couple of champions and some of the teams that were at the very top of the league, when it was all said and done at the end of this year, is that you have to do a great job, and you have to have the optionality to do a great job of building out depth that can hopefully replace the irreplaceable individual. And that's not an easy thing to do, right? And we get that. And that's absolutely nothing against Jaylen, right? If you have Jaylen Brown on your team, you should feature him. You should use all those possessions, and you should approach things that way. But I think the importance of depth, and then obviously we have to continue to work on ways to diversify our attack overall. All that being said, still would not have made a move unless we thought the right opportunity presented itself.
People keep asking me, why did they make this trade? And I thought that sort of distilled it down, right? If you're going to take the 45 minutes and boil it down, what Brad said there, right? Like in 23-24, they accounted for 47.34% of the cap. The 2 most expensive players on that team, Drew and KP. They were making way more. The extensions hadn't kicked in yet. Again, they were able to get ahead of it. This year, they would have been on the books for 70.4%, 35.4% for Tatum, or 35.4% for Brown, 35% for Tatum. And it's hard to construct a roster. How do you start putting it together? I did think the more interesting part there was when he brought up the usage. Because we've all sort of knew the money side of it was reaching this reckoning. But it also seems to point back to, all right, JB just had a year where he got a lot of possessions. And now you have Tatum coming back, and he's healthier, and the distribution. We've had this conversation for years. 1 and 2, like how do you get it to work together? Are you surprised? I mean, now as I reflect on it, it's like I should have been more aware that this reckoning was coming based on it's going to be hard for these two to be able to have enough possession.
Well, contrary to what I think has been popular belief, whether it be in the media or I don't think that these guys have had a hard time coexisting. I've thought that they have played well together since Marcus Smart left. I think that they have been complementary. I think there was much more of a push-pull tug of war that went on for the basketball in general when Marcus Smart was here, because he would take random possessions for himself, which should not have been his possessions. So I thought that they played well together. The ironic thing to me is, as much as I lacerated Jaylen Brown over the years for turnovers, ball dominance, and my turn offensive basketball, never mind defensive lapses and snoozes, he played this year as effectively as he possibly could in terms of distributing the ball. That's why going into this offseason, before it became a rumor that turned into a avalanche, I didn't think that the Celtics would move on from him because he played so well. I thought that they could coexist. I just didn't know where they were going to germinate someone to contend with. I mean, you can't go into a playoffs, as the Celtics did, against the Sixers team, go up 3-1, and then just get rototilled by Embiid because you have no answer in the front. Zero answer. Joel Embiid shouldn't take you out, and that's why he lost 4-0 in the next round to another battleship in Karl Anthony Towns. And I can't remember, who's up front for Cleveland?
Jared Allen and Evan Mobley.
Huge humans. Whether it's Wembanyama or whether it's Jokic or on down the line, the number of massive players who are going to overwhelm Keita and or
Mitchell
Garza.
Oh, yeah, before this.
They are looking at their team and saying, we can't just have these two be excellent, use the ball all the time, or have high usage, and hope that we're going to stop people at the other end. Let me ask you this, too. Sure. This is the other thing that makes it possible. Who are the Celtics' last 4 first-round, second-round draft picks?
So Jordan Walsh, Baylor Shireman, Ugo Gonzalez, and now this year it was, well, are you throwing?
No.
Okay, so before Walsh, it would have been, I'm going to struggle to pull.
That's okay. But the point is, you're not landing a seismic difference maker who's entering the early portion of his prime. You're landing good players, which is what happens when you draft where you do. The Patriots went through a similar thing at the end of Brady. He wanted to be paid commensurate with his ability. The Patriots had drafted so poorly that they couldn't surround him with enough good players that they could buy in free agency. So bills were coming due. So Tom Brady had to go because he was just going to sit there on a 9-7 team, but it still sucked when he went. There's a real correlation between Brady and what the Celtics are doing now.
Well, one of the interesting things to me is, so the usage discussion has become a thing because I think what happened was after the season, Brad and the front office sat down and did sort of like a deep dive, and so much of it has reverted back to the on-off numbers, right? And no one can really look. I'm a numbers nerd. I've struggled to explain why Jaylen's on-court stuff this year was really good.
Yep.
And then somehow it jumped to like ungodly good when the bench went in. Now, some of that is lesser competition they're playing. Some of it is, again, half the league was tanking. So like those numbers are juice. But you go back over the last 4 seasons, including the championship year, and Jaylen's on-off splits were highly in the negative. And I think what they were finding was that, hey, wait, every time Jaylen's off the court, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard go in and are playing really well. So is there something about, even if you have to swallow hard on losing a great player, are you going to unlock Derek a little bit more in a way that obviously was not unlocked this year based on his struggles? And Peyton Pritchard especially. Like, is there just another level you can tap into? And is that a more agreeable pathway as you use the leftover resources to build out a roster? And look, Brad even said, like, we're banking on that, but we don't know. They don't know for sure. What they're doing is they're looking at the numbers, they're looking at the play of the team, and they are betting that under this new CBA, this has to be the way. That there's just not enough basketballs when there's 35% guys who play a similar style.
There's not a card-carrying basketball observer who can look at Derek White and not absolutely love his game, but I still wonder if he is going to continue to be at the same level or above that. as an offensive player. He expends ridiculous amounts of energy on defense. Offensively, you can see okay, I'm going to do it. He drifts when he shoots. He doesn't go, he's not a spot up, straight up and down shooter. He drifts. And you can see when his confidence wanes.
Oh, for sure.
So I don't think that Derek White is necessarily going to be unlocked in any way. You just want him to return to the consistent player that he was. Excellent player, good offensive player, very good third option. They just don't have a second option. It would be nice if Tatum was the first and there was a go-between second option. Paul George could conceivably be that.
Do you think it can be Peyton?
Here's the thing about Peyton Pritchard. You have to change your style of offense. And I've said this to our boss, Kevin Miller, once before. I said, if you look at Steve Nash, and I know he's not Steve Nash, but I'll use
Plays a lot like him around the basket.
I'll use a corollary. Watch Steve Nash's numbers at Dallas. He barely played, started to use them. Then he was given the keys.
Right.
And when you allow Peyton Pritchard to, he's not the passer that Steve Nash was, but if you allow Peyton Pritchard to create, he is a guy who dominates the basketball, but he also is moving with the basketball and circling under, moving back. He does take a long time to extricate himself for a shot. He's not as good a passer as Nash, so sometimes he's not dribbling with the intention of passing. He's dribbling with the intention of moving the defense, but he's not looking to set somebody up necessarily. Sometimes, and, I'm not speaking in absolutes, but I think he can be unlocked. Not that he can be Steve Nash, but what did he average probably this year? 16-ish?
Yeah, it might have even been north of that.
Okay.
Especially as a starter. And then actually the numbers went up when he first went to the bench. I think they leveled out a little bit.
I'd love to see him be a 17, 9.
Yeah. Is there a world where Peyton's not a 20-point per game guy?
Not a?
No, I'm saying, isn't there a world where he's a 20-point per game guy?
Oh, yeah, there could be. But I'd love to see, I would much prefer to see him be 17 and 10.
Yeah, exactly, right?
So he's making other guys better.
And I think that's what they're kind of banking on here, right? Like when we had Tom Habistro on last week, he was kind of said the mini Brunson thing. I don't want Peyton Pritchard doing that usage.
No.
But if he could be low turnover, if he's getting everyone involved, to your point, like making guys around him better, getting Derek White good shots, taking the pressure off Derek to be the number 3 guy instead of the number 2, I think there's a really good world.
I hate forced shots.
Right.
I hate them.
And the Celtics seem to love
Brunson
them.
takes a lot of them.
Yeah.
And he hits them. But I do not want to see forced shots when you have a team.
Well, sometimes he's getting grenades, but I'm with you, right?
Oh, yeah. No, but I'm talking about the on the wing, 9 times between your legs. And I do like his little spin around, turn around in the middle of the lane. That's effective, but it takes a minute to extricate himself for that shot. But go ahead. Your pod, not mine.
No, I like it. I'm waiting to play some more bites from this press conference. One of the other things I thought was interesting was there's been a lot of talk. Jaylen Brown went on a Twitch stream and expressed some dismay about potentially the communication between him and the team had taken a left turn during these negotiations. And Brad Stevens was asked about that.
Jaylen said on his live stream the other night that at first he felt like everything was fine, and then things kind of went left. From your perspective, when did things go left in those talks with him? And was any of that a factor in whether you felt urgency to move on from him?
It was not a factor in the urgency. I will say we had several talks. If he feels that way, then, I'm sorry about that. I am, genuinely, because he's a meaningful person in all of our lives, and certainly mine. Like I said, we had a lot of open discussions about here or elsewhere. And even, I would say, he, and at least his agent, were well aware of even teams that had the most cursory of interest. So, at least that was well communicated, or at least communicated. And so we tried to do that to the best of our ability. As things get further down the line, it's complicated to ultimately get over the finish line with any deal. I'm sorry that he would feel that way.
So Brad feels bad if Jaylen thinks there was a gap in the communication, but I mean, he did say there that no matter what team had interest, they were kind of communicating it to his agent. And then, who knows what happens. Then it becomes a game of password, right? Like, how much is the agent telling him? My guess is, and look, we're going to hear from Jaylen Brown eventually in a press conference from Philly. We're going to learn a lot more. Jaylen's in town all this week. I suspect we'll hear more about him even the next couple days. I wonder if the disconnect was, okay, the Giannis thing fizzles. Jaylen maybe is open to reconciliation at that point, and then all of a sudden he's like all in these rumors, and you hear rumors about the Celtics just shopping him. And from a Jaylen perspective, do you get why it might have gone left on him?
Yeah, I absolutely understand why, from his perspective, he feels as if, well, I'm completely expendable after all I've done since I came here. All I've done is be a guy who accepted the challenge of improving, which he did every year. Who improved drastically despite the slings and arrows of people in the local media and maybe around the league, who carried a team this past offseason. How can I be just a discard? How did I turn into just a product? So I understand his point of view, but also I think that his pride is hurt.
Yeah.
And I think that he carries his ego very clearly on his sleeve. He wants everyone to know that he's one of the best players in the world, as he said to the New York Times a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He's very vocal about wanting his proper due, which for anybody who has overcome a significant amount of doubters, you want. That's why he called this year the best year he's had, because nobody believed that they could succeed at the level they did. That's why it was friggin' fun. It was pressure 2 years ago. It wasn't pressure now. He got to put people's face in it. So to me, he's a guy who has a lot of pride. He wears it on his sleeve. He wears his ego on his sleeve. And if you injure his ego, he's going to feel it and react to it. He's not a stoic, even though he's kind of quiet on the court and has a stoic personality. He's injured easily, I think, in terms of his ego. And that's why you could not have sat him down for 8 hours straight and explained to him the finances of why they had to move on from him, because he's looking at it and said, after all I've done, I'm going for Paul George, God bless him. It's been a real, I think, dent to how he probably views himself, to see that others around the league think he's just worth Paul George and 4 picks.
And it's interesting because I always thought that the most likely scenario was them finding a way to work this out. Now, certainly, once you go from the Giannis rumors and like, oh, they missed out there, can they put as everyone loved to say, can they put the toothpaste back in the tube? But it became, hey, like all of a sudden, you hear 10 different rumors about him. And to your point, like if I'm Jaylen, it's like, all right, I can understand I'm getting dragged into the Giannis conversation, but now you're telling me like Portland and all these other teams, like all of a sudden that was probably where it was. All right, F this, and I don't blame them.
It's funny. It's
so human.
And for the Celtics, it's like, well, when they've taken that step over the line to be on the cusp of trading him, once you walk back in the room from that, you still have it in you. Well, we've already walked through that door and walked back in. It's not as hard to walk through as we thought, and it made it more palatable.
Yeah,
conceivable.
It's fair. One of the other big talking points has been, are the moves the Celtics have made both this offseason and last offseason being driven by money? And owner Bill Chisholm tackled that.
What do you say to fans who say that since your group has taken over, numerous quality players have gone out the door for mostly salary/tax relief?
I mean, I just don't necessarily agree with the premise there that they were salary based. This was every decision that was made, the prior decisions, I should say, those were basketball related decisions. Those were that we are about. We would have gutted the team for the future had we not done those things. The second apron is a real thing, and I know you know that. But so that was not about money. Those are basketball decisions, and I put this one in the same category as well. I mean, there is no the money here. You said it to Brad. Their money's not really. It's marginally different. So it's not about the money at all. This was, again, trying to put together the right set of players and assets to win now, to win next year, the following year, the year after that. That's what this was about. None of these were about money. We have some more room now. Like if we see something we want to, Brad's got the green light to do that. So. Yeah, I just really, I know there's people feel like, oh, there must be a smoking gun somewhere around the money. That's just not what this is about. And, I can say it and I'll keep saying it, but I'll also prove it to you. When the time is, when we have the opportunity, we're gonna do that. And we've given ourselves the flexibility to do it now. So, yeah, it's fine to keep asking the question, but because I know we have to prove it, and we will.
All right. I actually love that answer. Look, this is the one topic that just drives me nuts. I don't listen to a lot of Boston sports radio. Shout out to all you people, all of our friends in the 98.5 and all that. Like, you're good at what you do. And sometimes they just love poking the bear and all that. But I've heard so much, whether it's social media or the radio, about like, oh, all these moves are being driven by private equity and they're just trying to save money. Look. You can trust me, or you can, or just like ignore this if you want to just be blissfully unaware. Whoever owned the Boston Celtics last year, whether it was Wick Grossbeck, whether it was Bill Chisholm, whether it was Steve Pagliuca, whether whoever it was, no one was spending the money to keep that roster together. They had to get off the second apron for the long term and the longevity of this team. It had to happen.
Can I ask you this? Why did it have to happen?
Because not only was your roster going to cost you $535 million for that season,
it wasn't going to be a winning roster as well. I mean, it was going to be a stretch. I just want to make sure.
No, that's a great question. Like, if you think,
I don't think that Porzingis was going to come back.
And that's the thing.
I don't think
if
that
you could have told me that Kristaps Porzingis was going to play 70 games that year, okay, maybe I'm thinking about it. If you're convinced that Luke Cornett will come back at a rate that isn't going to cost 3.5 times the number, 4 times the number. That's why you don't sit in that chair.
I know.
And then maybe that happens. But you just seen the year before when you tried to keep together a very expensive roster that you couldn't get out of the second round against the New York Knicks. And so with no guarantee, the decision was made to go back the other way. Now, I will tell you this. You are approaching... You had to get out of the luxury tax for 2 years. There is a very real pathway back to, it might not be to that level of splurge because you don't have quite the assets to go get the Porzingis and the Drew Holiday, but they got some stuff they can do. They've got some avenues. We can talk about, this is a whole nother podcast, but so Curran never sits in this chair and he's broken it twice. And it's making me laugh because the one time I had to sit in that chair, exact same thing.
Okay.
So don't feel bad about that. It's supposed to hide a wire, but it's really useless. I'm just saying, I actually believe Bill Chisholm when he says that when given the opportunity, they will spend. And I think next summer, we keep calling it the slingshot. You have a chance to really load this thing up and go back to a level where you can build. Okay, right now their roster is, let's say, $187 million. But when you don't have the repeater to deal with, now you can spend $250 million. You can go $70 million over the cap. Be in the second apron again for 2 seasons. But they're going to pull you right back eventually because you can't linger there. But for 2 years, you can spend crazy. Whereas that $270 million roster last year would have cost you $570 million.
That's why you can't be proven right, nor can they be proven wrong until we see what they do next offseason. Fair. And it's an impossibility.
And look, I'll come back on this podcast and be like, I was wrong. You can hit me with that wire guard over there, and you can tell me you trusted these guys, and they bamboozled.
Yeah, but you'll do that. But the folks who, like Mike Felger, will not come back and say, "Oh wow, I was wrong. They did spend all that money," because as I've said, Felger
they'll just yell about how they didn't spend this year.
For Mike. For someone whose only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and it's always finances for Mike, and that's fine. In times there are, so you're going to be right a lot of the time, and finance is going to be a component of every basketball, football, hockey, baseball decision. It's a massive component, especially when we're talking $500 million contracts being handed out, which is what Drake May is going to soon see, and that's a fascinating conversation as well because you have Gonzalez and May, and then you have Tatum and Brown, and the Celtics just leapt off of theirs. I don't think the Patriots are going to do the same thing, but all of the finances do enter into it. Our teams making financial decisions so that they can build lighthouses or new buildings, as the Celtics were rumored last week in the Globe to be looking into? Or are they doing it so that they can be teams that are incrementally moving closer to contending for championships? You can't buy championships anymore. Not with a salary cap here.
Got to draft
but
right.
You can buy the opportunity. And the Celtics don't have the opportunity. They have to be a top 4 to 6 team to realistically think you can win a championship. Patriots the same way. But you can't buy your way into it and just say, well, we got Tatum and Brown. We have the best duo in the league. We should be able to deal with anyone. You got Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic out there going, really? You're the best two in the league? Maybe we are. Or give me a few more duos. Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. Shea and...
Whoever you want to pick, Jalen Williams or Chad or whoever,
Or my guy De'Aaron Fox, who had a tough finals. And Wembanyama, you can go on and on. These duos have one who's a high guy who might be better than Brown in the overall or more capable of consistently dominating a game than, Tatum. Look, I think Tatum's one of the 3 best all-around players in the NBA. All around.
He had every chance to prove it this year.
Rebounding, scoring, defense. I think that he's one of the 3 best all-around players, probably with Jokic and Luka. Better than Shea in terms of all-around basketball ability.
100%.
But you probably have Tatum stuff there anyway, so why don't you jump in?
Well, we're going to get to Tatum, but I'm just going to tee it up with this. I'm going to get a second rant in here. Like, if there's one thing that should excite you as a Celtic fan about this season, it's the potential for what Tatum can do now with that full spotlight on him. And again, that's not a shot at Brown. It's just, if the Celtics are going to be good, Jayson Tatum got to be really good this year. And he's going to get every opportunity to be in the MVP conversation, to show what he can do, to be, as Tom Curran said, a top 3 player in the NBA. But did the Celtics help Jayson Tatum? Brad Stevens was asked that today as well.
Brad, in the aftermath of this trade, has Jayson Tatum shared any sentiments about the trade to you at all? And if so, what were some of those sentiments?
I mean, I think Jayson and Jaylen, Jayson is a friend of Jaylen, right? And so we have not talked in great depth about that. I think that, again, I didn't keep him in the loop. I didn't talk to him the next day. I didn't want to put that on him or anyone else that's in the playing group. I know how little I sleep. Nobody else needs to feel that. And I think ultimately, when you put in the work and the sweat with somebody for 9 years, there's obviously going to be a great appreciation for that person.
So there's another bite in there where Brad kind of dances around whether the team is, maximizing Jason's prime years here. But like, he did talk about the relationship aspect of it. If you're Jayson Tatum, how are you feeling as you're watching this all go down?
Oh, shit. It's all on me. And then I hope that his reaction is not, okay, me, my mind. It's all on me. I have to do it all by myself. I embrace that opportunity because it means I might be a 33-point-a-game scorer and realize all those things. But I can also look back at the team, and if things go bad, I can say, well, see, you put it all on me. You took my JB away. So I think it's a very tenuous spot, and I hope that, again, the Celtics have been privileged to have 2 of the hardest working superstars in the NBA who play all the time. But I do think that Jayson Tatum sometimes feels as if the burden is so heavy he would like people to understand how much he's carrying. And he doesn't have to. He does not have to go through his legs 7 times after getting the ball with 12 seconds left on the shot clock and take a 27-foot step back that may or may not chip paint. That drives me bananas. He needs to be a little bit like Jaylen Brown was in a way I didn't expect him to be able to.
Yep.
If he can be like Jaylen Brown was this past season, they're fine. He can be a better basketball player. It doesn't have to be 33 points a game, but he might look around and say, do I trust Baylor Shireman? Jaylen Brown did. Jaylen Brown trusted Baylor Shireman enough to get something out of him that I never thought that we were going to see.
Right.
Because so frequently the Celtics don't get a lot out of their first and second round picks in the draft. They just kind of evaporate. So he has to be to get to the pathway to have him have a successful season. He has to play like Jaylen Brown did this past year and trust those guys.
How ironic is that?
Yeah. Because he can't just be, well, it's all on me now. Look out. Where's my
Right,
cape?
clear
Here I
out.
come.
And I thought, and to your point, I thought that was maybe the best thing about Jaylen's season is that he recognized that pretty early on.
Never thought he could do it.
Right. And,
'Cause-
and I thought for sure, because, going into the year, we had a lot of conversations about that, is just would he just take a lot of shots? And now his usage rate was high, but, I mean, to your point, he got all those young guys to buy in. And other part that I think is like criminally underrated, the one part of this like whole thing that probably gets overlooked is how good of a leader he was last year.
Let me ask you that then. How does the Celtics non-basketball personality change without the guy who, and Derek White has a personality, but he's like a Lady Bing
For sure.
type guy, a great sportsman, not going to be. Jaylen Brown obviously played with more edge than anybody else on their team, more physicality, was more willing to point a finger and get in somebody's chest. The personality changes. You're not going to, except for your head coach and Peyton Pritchard and Ugo. Kate is pretty nasty. You don't exude. Oh shit!
Swagger,
You don't
yeah.
exude. These guys are going to be in for a
It's interesting.
bar fight.
Your head coach exudes a little of that, right? Like a little craziness, he might come out and block a shot or whatever. I think it probably starts there. I think it's no surprise that one of the offseason moves is to bring in Mike Conley.
Yeah, and Robinson.
Right.
Robinson's
Mitchell
nasty.
Robinson brings an edge,
Immediate nastiness.
Right. And that'll help. And I do think Kata plays with like
I do
little
too.
grit, he's got to go up a level with
But
that.
it takes away your superstar edgy guy.
And it's different when Jaylen sets that tone versus when you need it from some younger guys.
Yep.
And so, like I said, I think Conley isn't necessarily a nasty player. Obviously, doesn't had a technical in his entire career, but he's a veteran guy who can, when there is a mistake, can politely say to somebody as Joe's chewing them out, "Hey, Ugo, here's what I would do in that instance," and bring it back a little bit. So I think the leadership void is filled a little bit there,
but
the
the
nastiness void is going to be interesting to fill.
And the league right now, as somebody who watched the '80s Celtics religiously, the league is much more physical now than it was in the '80s. And you might say, what are you talking about? What about '80s and '90s basketball? Sorry. Go ahead. You got YouTube. Watch a game. Watch a playoff game. There's plenty of room for the Holy Spirit between every single offensive player and their defender. Now it's grabbing, it's clutching. The number of plays that would result in fouls back then, there was more violence.
Yeah,
in
some
the
of them
80s.
like Lambeer and McHale would clothesline people, but there wasn't
the amount of physicality
defense.
and toughness that you need to withstand going full speed, running into picks, guys setting the most illegal, insane picks now, and sometimes being called, sometimes not. So to me, you need somebody who's going to exhibit that toughness and meanness on a regular basis because the Knicks have it.
Mm-hmm. Boy, do they have it.
Who else has it? I mean, Pistons have it, or should.
I think, Oklahoma City more than anybody.
Magic have kind of had it.
Magic definitely have it. I mean, 2 years ago they got into
They were
that
nasty
first round.
yeah.
Pistons have it, although they lost Isaiah Stewart, so that will be interesting. A lot of the East has that sort of grit to it, And you got.
And I'm not saying they're not grit because they won on grit. They won 56 freaking games.
Yeah, but they had Drew, and KP had a nasty side to him. Like when they were out there, there's some work to replace that.
Yeah.
I'm with you there.
Okay.
I'm interested. I'm already ready to spin it forward, and I'm ready for win totals. I'm ready for projections.
Schedule release party.
I'm not ready for that. I love, sitting there and being like, all right, what do we think they're going to go in October? Yeah, no.
It's harder for you. I mean, it's easy for us.
You guys have it great.
We got 17
16, 17 games. Like, yeah, let's go. And actually, I marvel because you guys are so good at it. The year, I thought that the Patriots were going to be terrible, and Phil's on there being like, I got him at 11-5 or whatever. I'm like, what? Where's he seeing this? And then you guys were good.
I used to be hot with that. I cooled off a couple of years ago
Really?
when I had Mac Jones and company in 23, I think.
A little bit more volatile.
Yeah. No, it's a 10-win team. I mean, Mac come back for second year.
How's that going for him?
Not that great.
Yeah. Now hey, look, I was on with our friends in Philly, and they said, are New England fans more excited about A.J. Brown or more upset about Jaylen Brown? I said, well, right now it's definitely the latter, but maybe the former could help take some eyeballs off the basketball team a little bit.
I think it's interesting. It does talk to or helps to make the point that this is very much, again, all due respect to the Bruins, but they're fairly forgettable right now, roster-wise and results-wise, that this is a football basketball town completely, because the agitation about Jaylen Brown, I think, exceeds the excitement that we saw a couple months ago with A.J. Brown, and that was constant and daily. But I think that the agitation
that'll re-ramp, right?
Oh, it will. But yeah. I think even if at the peak of A.J. Brown and the peak of Jaylen Brown, I think this peak is higher, because it's maybe because they knew it was a fait accompli with A.J. Brown, but the national media, I think, and maybe because there's not a lot of crap going on right now.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. I do think is it weird that Brad Stevens, the first time that I can remember, like, people being mad.
No, I don't think it's weird. I think it's funny because he's such a nice.
Yes.
From my
how can you be mad at that human?
He's such a nice person, even where he's sitting there and he could have said, "Well, Jaylen's pissed off. I don't know what to tell you." We had millions of conversations with him. I don't know if he did, but I can't imagine they just went blind, or so. But he's so nice about it that you look at him and he can be a little bit of an assassin with
100%. Dude traded Kemba Walker like his first week on the job, and like people love Kemba. Look. And
people love players. They needed to get out of the Isaiah Thomas business. I knew that they needed to get out of the Isaiah Thomas business. Whew, I just ran out of breath. It means we have to stop soon. But they needed to get out of the Isaiah Thomas business. And I remember laughing and being, I did a 30. It's a friggin' business, and you're trying to win championships. If guys are going to be an impediment to the team getting better, no matter how great they are, if the facts of NBA life are that you cannot continue with Jaylen Brown because it's going to prevent you from building a championship team or the potential to build a championship team, you got to get out of that business, unless people just want to continue to show up and watch 55 wins and do this, come the playoffs. Oh, just hoping.
This was a good pod. I kept you way longer than I told you.
I like sports. Yeah, what's going on July 6th?
We
can get home now for the Worldiest Cup.
You get home in time for Team USA if I cut you loose right now? Mm-hmm. You can take that mic guard with you as well.
It's right here.
Maybe you'll switch it up. Maybe this year that's your chair.
No,
that's not happening.
That'd be a bad sign for my longevity.
I need everyone to go subscribe. You need to go like and subscribe on the Patriots Talk. Oh, let's be honest, you already are. You probably wandered over here because you're like, wait, Tom Curran's on Celtics Talk today? What's happening here? Bizarro world? We might make Tom come back even more. Sure. Never know. Until then, we'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.